we've gotten to the end of another year, or just about there. And as always, or at least as has been for the last several years, one of the things we look at is what was our year that just passed like? What is it we did right? What did we do wrong? What do we want to change? What do we want to add, delete, things like that. And the other side of that is looking ahead to the year and how do we take our lessons learned? Where are some things that, from our roadmaps of various sources that we need to start to factor in the year ahead? One of the things we also run into is we talk about getting, as you get into, sort of like a crunch time of trying to get stuff done by the end of the year. As the year end comes closer, obviously, there's a little more stress or urgency to get those done. But here's some things to think about. We're now sitting a couple of weeks out of the end of 2021. Maybe some things that we can do to help us in the year ahead, or to knock off like one or two extra items on our list. So we're going to talk about one, hey, time's running out. We're down to not have a ton of time, even though maybe you got some holidays, some vacation time, so that you have a little more flexibility in your time. And we're talking about what were your key goals, trying to figure out some way to, still make those a success, looking ahead for the next year, maybe doing some investing in the future. And then, maybe there's some cleanup. Maybe it's time to do, instead of spring cleaning, maybe you do some year-end cleaning. So first off, like I said, time's running out. We're getting towards the end of the year. So with this little bit of time left, it's pretty important to step back for a second and say, okay, looking at what my goals were, or even what has come up since, January 1st, what is it I need to get done? And this is sort of your standard thing. It's like, what do I need to get done? What do I want to get done? Sort of an adjustment to normally, are there things that just can't get done? If I've got a list of things to do, I've got 20 items on my list, and 5 of them, there's just no way they're going to get done, then I just need to punt and not stress over those. However, before I remove them from the list, maybe look at it, can I make some partial progress? Is there something that I'm not going to complete, but it will make me feel much better, or it'll be very beneficial for me to make some partial progress? A random example would be if you said you wanted to write a book by the end of the year and there's no way you're going to get it done. Maybe there's something where you say, well, hey, I can get to, halfway done, or X number of chapters done, or something like that. I can make some progress that when I roll this into next year makes it more likely that I can get it done. And a lot of the times that's stuff where it's changing your regular investment in that action or activity. So for the writing example, maybe if you look at it, you're like, gosh, I would have to write, from where I'm at, I'd have to write an hour a day for 6 months to get this thing done. And that's just maybe time you don't, it's going to be either difficult or you don't want to invest. However, maybe if you do a heads down, crank through it a little bit in the next couple of weeks for the end of the year, then maybe you get to the point where you only have to spend 15 minutes a day for 6 months or something like that. So there's some things where maybe you can take some of the future cost and go ahead and take care of it now and make some partial progress that maybe is very useful to you, that allows you to go into next year more confident that you will be able to get it done. So first thing we want to look at is just, as always, we have these key goals, these things that we want to get done, whether it's career goals, whether it's personal, whether it's health, finance, whatever. We have these things that we set at the beginning of the year, and part of our maybe our New Year's resolutions, or our first, second, third, fourth quarter planning, things like that. So we want to take a look at those. What is it we said we wanted to do, we wanted to complete, and so where are we at? And we look at 4 areas of that. You've got for your business or your career, you've got those goals. You've got personal things like family and relationships, general mental health, stuff like that. You got physical stuff. Maybe you said you were going to do sit-ups or push-ups or walk or run or something like that. And then there's financial needs. Are there things that you need to, either money that you needed to earn, things you needed to pay off, debt you needed to reduce, savings you needed to build up, things of that nature. So first, let's talk about your business career kind of stuff. We're getting to the end of the year. We're looking at our lists of goals. And particularly with the idea of what is it I need? What is it I want? Is there maybe something that I'm just not going to get done? So one of the things we can do is look at it and say, particularly with like things that we're not going to complete, but also looking at things that we want to do next year. Is this a time that I need to either start filling up a pipeline or start something? A good example would be if you wanted to do a podcast next year, maybe this is a time to record 1 or 2 episodes and start the process of being accepted on the Apple podcast, so that you have that channel open, so that as you go into next year, you've gone through the groundwork. Or Apple's keeping started with that theme. Maybe there's an application that you want to build for an iPhone or iPad or something like that. So you want it in an Apple store. Then maybe this is a time. Although I will warn you, that specific example, holidays are a slower time to get acceptance into the Apple store. But this could be for any. If you're trying to build out utilize an API maybe for a site. Sometimes there's just lead time involved. Maybe you want to do a Raspberry Pi project. So maybe this is the time to go ahead and order the parts for that project, things like that. So there may be some pipelines that you need to start to fill up, or some things that it makes sense to get those in motion while you don't have as many other things maybe distracting you. Now, maybe there's some deadlines or some things that you need to complete from a business point of view. The annual stuff are things like particularly government-related stuff along the lines of like tax forms that maybe need to be filed, or year-end licensings or applications, or there's maybe some state compliance things. There's some of these things that maybe those need to be dealt with, that you need to actually get those completed before the end of the year, or applications in before the end of the year. Or you may have customers that are, they got some requirement and you need to get that done. Or maybe just for billing and invoicing, that you need to get to a certain point so that you can invoice somebody, so that you can claim that that work or those sales this year. It could also be reviews. There may be annual reviews or something like that that you need to get done by the end of the year, so that you can be properly prepared going into the next year. Similar to the things to start in pipelines, maybe there's some wheels to set in motion. Maybe there are some habits that you will be benefited by as you go into the next year. Going to that example of having to do an hour work a day on your book, if you want to get a book done, maybe now's the time to start spending, X amount of time, 15 minutes a day, half hour a day, hour a day, whatever it is, on that thing that you're going to want to, or that's going to need that time in the year ahead. So while you don't have a lot of other distractions, you can start making that a regular part of your day, and make sure that that's sufficient, that's going to make sense when you get into the busier day of work and things like that. And again, particularly assuming that you've got some time off, some holidays, and some ways to, some free time that you can do some of these things. And then the thing that I don't think we ask enough is looking at what we've done this year, and maybe even some of our goals and career roadmaps and things like that we've got. Are there things that we've done this year that it's time to stop, or things that we should say no to? A good example would be, maybe you needed a certain certification or set of certifications, and you got those done this year. And so you don't need to worry about subscribing to the test sites, or you don't have to worry about whatever time you had set aside for studying for those certifications. And there's other things. Another classic is bills. If there's certain things that you subscriptions and things like that that are monthly, quarterly, annual bills, and you're not using that tool or that service or that product anymore, then stop it. And this goes to like anything. It's even if it's your personal stuff. You may have a I don't know magazine subscription and you haven't read that magazine in 3 years, so stop it. Things like that. So it's business, and you're going to see there's definitely some overlap between business and personal finance and all these things. The examples may be a little different, but you'll see that there's going to be this theme across all of these. From a personal point of view, maybe there's some relationship goals that you want to adjust. So maybe there's some groups you need to join, or some research that's worth doing. And for example, let's say you're in you're married or in some sort of similar relationship, and you want to do a monthly date night that's a night out on the town or something like that. Well, maybe now's the time to spend a little time researching what are some cool things to do, or maybe like example here, maybe you want to go to like the Performing Arts Center in TPAC, and you decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and subscribe to that. Or maybe you want to go for a walk on a park on a regular basis, and you want to become a park member of some sort so that you can be invited to more events. Maybe you want to become more involved in like a church or some other local social thing, and maybe there's some groups that will help you do it. Maybe you want to do some charity work, so you want to go see if you can join a Habitats for Humanity team or something along those lines. So there's things like this, and we've got these goals. Sometimes we need to take some steps, or maybe if we don't need to, taking certain steps will help us get to that point. There's some education goals. I talked about certifications earlier. Maybe there's some certifications that you want to tackle in the year ahead, or degrees or something along those lines. Maybe there's some just additional classes you want to take. So take a look into those, see if maybe there's some things there that we need to put on our roadmap for the year ahead. Are there magazines or books that you want to read? I talked about canceling a subscription, but maybe there's, and magazines are, not used very often anymore. So maybe there is a blog site or some news outlet that you either want to subscribe to or just get into the habit of visiting that. And it may be as simple as putting that as a bookmark, or maybe even the homepage for the browser you typically use, so that you just have this reminder when you start your day that it brings that site up, and boom, you're already looking into that site or consuming that content. If there's books that you want to read, then this goes back to maybe setting some time aside and say, all right, if I want to read this book or this series or something like that, then I'm going to set a goal to read X amount of pages or X amount of time reading on a daily or weekly or something like that, or monthly basis, so that you're starting to get yourself into the mindset of, I want this goal. Here's the work or actions that I need to take to achieve that goal. Another one that I think is, I do this a lot. I'm not sure it's as common, because you do have people do, they talk about spring cleaning and maybe fall cleaning where they do a lot of stuff. Well, during this time, especially if you're in a weather that's not too bad, but it's colder, but it's not too cold or snowy, and it's not too hot. I mean, it's time to look around, particularly if you're inside a lot. Maybe it's one of those where you want to do some internal cleaning and repairs. Maybe you want to do deep cleaning your house. Maybe there's that room that needs to be painted. Maybe there's an attic that needs to be cleaned out, or crap that's been sitting around your house, for the last year, where you can say, okay, I haven't touched this stuff in a year. It's sitting in a box. Maybe it's time to donate it or take it to the trash, things like that. And sometimes it's little things. There's things that we're busy in our normal routine, and they're there, and they may be broken or needing a little bit of repair, and we just don't mess with it. A good example, maybe there's a light bulb out somewhere, in your house, your fridge or something like that, and you just don't. It's sort of an annoying thing when you turn that light on and it's not there. but you don't do it enough that you're like, okay, I got to fix it now. Oh, maybe now's a good time to do it. Is have a little, repair list, spend a morning or afternoon or whatever, and go do some of those little, repairs and touch ups and things like that.